Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I'm about to say, because there's something heaven has been trying to tell you for weeks and you've been missing the signs. That restlessness you've been feeling, that sense that something shifted but you can't name it. It started the moment you made a choice that looked like simple obedience to you, but registered in the spiritual realm as something else entirely. I know the last few weeks have felt strange. The air around you has been different. Maybe you were praying 2 weeks ago and felt like your words were hitting some kind of barrier you'd never encountered before. Or maybe you woke up at 4 in the morning this past Sunday with an overwhelming sense that you had done something wrong, but when you searched your heart, you couldn't find any sin. Perhaps you've been walking through your days feeling like you accidentally stepped into a room you weren't supposed to enter, and now everything around you is rearranging itself. The enemy has been working overtime to confuse you for one reason only. He knows what you accidentally activated when you chose obedience over comfort last month. It all makes sense tomorrow. The confusion, the spiritual turbulence, the feeling like you broke something sacred. But here's what the accuser doesn't want you to understand. You didn't break divine rules because you failed. You broke them because you succeeded beyond your spiritual pay grade. Think back to that moment 3 weeks ago when you chose to stay silent instead of defending yourself. When you chose to forgive when everything in you screamed for justice. When you walked away from that argument even though you could have won. You thought that was just normal Christian behavior, but heaven recorded it as something entirely different. You didn't know it then, but that act of restraint was the key that unlocked a door hell was depending on staying closed. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not guide you here. The Holy Spirit orchestrated this divine appointment because heaven has a verdict to deliver about what you've unknowingly become. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly which spiritual threshold you crossed without realizing it. I'm going to reveal why your simple act of obedience caused such chaos in the spiritual realm that angels had to be reassigned. And at the end, I'm going to give you the declaration that helps you step fully into the spiritual rank you accidentally qualified for. Do not scroll past this moment. Your destiny is waiting on the other side of this revelation, and if you leave now, you leave before heaven explains why everything around you has been shifting. I know what these past 3 weeks have felt like. You've been walking through your days with this nagging sense that you disrupted something, like you accidentally touched something sacred, and now you're waiting for the consequences. And in this uncertainty, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts. He's telling you that the spiritual turbulence you're experiencing is proof that you messed up God's plan. He's replaying that moment when you chose the narrow path over and over in your mind, that moment when you refused to gossip back, that moment when you blessed instead of cursed, that moment when you honored someone who didn't deserve it. The accuser is telling you that your restraint was weakness. He's convincing you that because everything feels different now, you must have done something wrong. But I need you to hear what Isaiah 55:11 actually says about moments like this. So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and shall succeed in the thing for which I sent it. Listen to that promise. Your obedience didn't create chaos because it was wrong. It created chaos because it was so perfectly aligned with heaven's will that it forced the spiritual realm to restructure itself around your new position. The restlessness you feel isn't God's disapproval. It's the atmosphere adjusting to accommodate your promotion. The confusion isn't punishment for crossing a line. It's the temporary disorientation that comes when you accidentally step into a spiritual rank you didn't know you were ready for. You think that moment when you chose holiness over revenge was just basic Christianity. You think your decision to remain pure when everyone else was compromising was standard obedience. But let me reframe your reality right now. That wasn't ordinary faithfulness. That was a demonstration of spiritual authority so advanced that heaven had to fast-track promotions that were scheduled for next year. Your purity didn't just please God. It triggered a shift that forced hell to abandon strategies and heaven to accelerate timelines. You didn't accidentally break divine rules. You accidentally proved you're ready for divine responsibilities that were meant to come later. The truth is, what you experienced wasn't an accident at all. It was a divine setup, meticulously orchestrated by the unseen hand of grace. For months, perhaps even years, heaven has been observing you, like a master gardener tending a precious seed, waiting to see if you possessed the spiritual fortitude to choose the narrow path. Even when the wide path beckoned with the siren call of ease, comfort, and immediate gratification. It was a cosmic proving ground, a sacred crucible designed not to break you, but to refine the very essence of your being. And when you finally made that pivotal choice 3 weeks ago, when you consciously selected purity over popularity, when you embraced the profound strength found in silence rather than the fleeting satisfaction of vindication, you unknowingly passed a profound spiritual examination. This wasn't merely a moral decision, it was a deep, soul-level alignment with a higher calling, a testament to a character being forged in the hidden chambers of your heart, unseen by the world, but perfectly illuminated by the divine gaze. It was your spirit declaring its allegiance to truth, even when truth demanded sacrifice and yielded no immediate earthly reward. But here's where it gets deeper, reaching into the very core of your recent experiences. The spiritual turbulence you've been navigating, that persistent sense of disquiet or disruption, isn't some random cosmic anomaly. It is, in fact, the audible reverberation of chains breaking in the heavenlies, a profound spiritual sound wave indicating liberation. Imagine ancient, rusted shackles, forged from old patterns, generational curses, or self-imposed limitations, finally shattering into dust under the mighty hand of divine intervention. Every time you feel that unsettling restlessness, that gnawing sense of being unmoored, it's not a sign of something going wrong. It's a powerful indicator that another limitation, another invisible barrier, another stronghold in your life is being irrevocably removed. And when you find yourself waking at 4 a.m., drawn from the depths of sleep by that strange, almost sacred sense of anticipation, that's not insomnia, that's your spirit, awakened and attuned, recognizing with an innate knowing that something profoundly significant is not just approaching, but is actively shifting in your favor, reordering the very fabric of your reality. It's the dawn chorus of your destiny, singing before the sun has even risen on your new season. Think about Moses standing before the burning bush in the desolate wilderness, merely a shepherd attending his flock. He thought he was just responding to a peculiar natural phenomenon, a strange fire that consumed but did not burn. He had absolutely no inkling that he was walking directly into a divine commission, a sacred assignment that would not only redefine the trajectory of his own life, but would profoundly alter the destiny of an entire enslaved nation. His encounter with the holy fire was his moment of divine summons, an ordinary man encountering an extraordinary call. Your moment of obedience 3 weeks ago was your burning bush moment. You genuinely believed you were simply doing the right thing, choosing integrity in a moment of pressure, but heaven saw it as your formal qualification ceremony. It was the divine imprimatur placed upon your character, declaring you ready for a greater work, a testament to your faithfulness in the small, unseen proving grounds of life. This quiet act of choosing the narrow way was, in heaven's eyes, a public declaration of your readiness for elevation. And this leads us to something that most people, caught in the throes of their own spiritual battles, miss entirely. It's a recurring, often terrifying pattern: the enemy's attacks, Those insidious whispers of doubt, the sudden surge of opposition, the inexplicable confusion, always intensify right before your breakthrough manifests. It's like the darkest hour just before dawn, or the fiercest storm preceding a profound calm. That pervasive confusion you've been grappling with, that sense of being disoriented and uncertain, that is not God's disapproval, nor a sign that you have erred. No, dear one, that is hell's profound, desperate panic response. The moment you chose holiness over convenience, the instant you prioritized divine alignment over worldly comfort, you unknowingly stepped into a new sphere of spiritual authority, a realm of power that profoundly threatens and actively dismantles every single plan and scheme the enemy had meticulously laid for your life. Your obedience was a spiritual earthquake in the enemy's camp, and his reaction is merely the aftershock. But let me challenge you with something that might truly surprise you, something that flips your perspective entirely. The very thing you've been apologizing to God for these past few weeks, the thing that has perhaps weighed on your conscience, might actually be the very thing He is most profoundly proud of you for. You've been diligently asking God to forgive you for what you perceived as disrupting the peace, for causing a ripple in the established order, for perhaps unsettling those around you or even yourself. But what if that disruption was precisely what was divinely ordained to happen? What if your radical, unyielding obedience didn't break God's meticulously crafted plan, but rather it served as the powerful key that activated it, unleashing a sequence of events precisely aligned with His perfect will? Coming up in just a moment, I'm going to show you the hidden pattern that's been operating in your life and why your simple act of faithfulness triggered something so powerful that it required immediate spiritual recalibration. Stay with me. Here's what most people tragically fail to realize about divine promotion and elevation. It almost never feels the way you imagine it will. We often picture trumpets sounding, confetti falling, a sudden swell of joyous affirmation. But when God truly elevates you, when He moves you into a new dimension of spiritual responsibility and authority, it rarely feels like celebration at first. Instead, it often manifests as a profound sense of displacement. It feels as though you've been suddenly, perhaps even jarringly, moved from a room you knew intimately, a space where every creak and shadow was familiar, into an entirely new chamber where all the furniture is rearranged, where the light hits differently and the air itself carries an unfamiliar scent. On the surface, to the casual observer, everything might appear largely the same in your external life. Yet, beneath the veneer of the ordinary, the spiritual atmosphere has undergone a complete, fundamental transformation. It's a new spiritual ecosystem, with different rules of engagement and a higher vibrational frequency. And that, beloved soul, is exactly what has happened to you. When you made that courageous choice 3 weeks ago, selecting obedience over the seductive lure of comfort and ease, you didn't merely make a good decision or a commendable moral stand. You quite literally stepped into a new spiritual ecosystem, a higher dimension of operation. The very reason everything around and within you feels different, often disorienting, is because you are now operating from a profoundly elevated level of spiritual authority, a position of increased influence and responsibility. Your spirit has ascended, but your old patterns of thinking, your deeply ingrained emotional responses, and your former ways of perceiving reality simply haven't caught up to your new spiritual altitude yet. It's like a newly launched satellite, still receiving signals from its old ground station, struggling to adjust to its expanded view of the cosmos. Consider the story of Esther, a young woman who, one day, was simply an orphaned girl, living under the protective wing of her cousin Mordecai in relative obscurity. The very next day, through a series of divine orchestrations, she found herself summoned to the opulent, intimidating palace, thrust into a world of unfamiliar customs and immense stakes. She undoubtedly didn't feel ready. She certainly didn't feel qualified for such a momentous role. Yet, her readiness wasn't predicated on her fleeting feelings or her perceived qualifications. Her true readiness was deeply rooted in her unwavering character, a character that had been meticulously tested and refined in countless small private moments that no one else ever witnessed. Your defining moment 3 weeks ago, that quiet act of radical obedience, was your very own palace summons. You just didn't recognize it for the profound spiritual coronation it truly was. You saw a challenge. Heaven saw a queen in the making. And once that profound truth finally clicks into place, once the divine revelation ignites within your understanding, everything fundamentally shifts. Because if your act of quiet, steadfast obedience was in fact your divine qualification, your heaven-stamped seal of approval, then the spiritual turbulence you've been experiencing isn't a crushing sign that you messed up, that you took a wrong turn, or that you're being punished. On the contrary, it is the undeniable, resounding confirmation that you have gloriously leveled up. You have ascended to a new plane of spiritual existence, and the accompanying shaking and rattling are merely the growing pains of a soul expanding into its predestined inheritance. It's the sound of the old foundations being shaken, not to destroy, but to make way for something far more solid, expansive, and eternally significant. But here's the part that no one truly wants to hear, the uncomfortable truth that often accompanies profound spiritual progress. With every genuine spiritual promotion, with every elevation in your divine assignment, inevitably comes spiritual resistance. It is an immutable law of the spiritual realm. The higher your calling, the more radiant your light becomes, the greater and more intensified the opposition from the forces of darkness will be. The more authority God sovereignly bestows upon you, the more threatened and enraged the enemy becomes, knowing the powerful impact you are destined to make. That persistent restlessness, that pervasive confusion, that lingering sense that you have somehow disrupted something sacred or caused an imbalance, that, dear friend, is not the heavy burden of guilt you are feeling. Those are the undeniable, transformative growing pains of a soul expanding into its true, majestic stature. It is the friction generated by new wine being poured into new wineskins, a beautiful, albeit sometimes uncomfortable, process of divine stretching. Now, once you truly understand and internalize that foundational truth, you are finally ready for the next profound revelation. The reason you stumbled upon this very message today, at this precise moment in your journey, is not a mere coincidence of algorithms or chance. It is heaven's divinely orchestrated way of delivering to you the crucial, missing piece of the puzzle that has been eluding you. For these past 3 weeks, you have been walking in a new, unprecedented level of spiritual authority without the conscious understanding of what exactly transpired within you. You have been operating from a profoundly promoted position, navigating a new spiritual landscape, yet without the crucial awareness and full comprehension that should rightfully accompany such an elevation. This message is your divine manual, your spiritual compass, illuminating the path you've already begun to tread. Hidden underneath that profound truth is yet another, even more expansive revelation. The moment you chose to step into that act of radical obedience 3 weeks ago, you didn't merely change the trajectory of your own personal future. You fundamentally, irrevocably changed the future of your entire family lineage. You didn't just break the cycles of negativity, limitation, or struggle within your own individual life. You broke powerful, deeply entrenched generational patterns that have been operating and dictating destinies for decades, perhaps even centuries. Imagine a heavy, invisible chain linking past generations to current struggles, suddenly snapping and dissolving. your children and indeed your children's children will walk in an unprecedented measure of freedom, experiencing blessings and breakthroughs that were previously impossible simply because you, in that singular moment, chose the narrow path of integrity and truth when the wide path of compromise looked so much easier and more appealing. Your obedience created a ripple effect that transcends time and space, altering the spiritual inheritance of those who come after you. This brings us to the real turning point, the nexus where personal revelation meets collective impact. The immense spiritual authority you seemingly accidentally activated isn't solely about your individual journey or your personal destiny. Its powerful ripple extends far beyond you. It is intrinsically connected to and profoundly impacts everyone who is connected to you, by blood, by spirit, by purpose, or by divine assignment. That is precisely why the enemy has been working in overdrive, relentlessly whispering doubts, sowing seeds of confusion, and desperately trying to convince you that you somehow did something wrong, that you erred, that you caused an imbalance. He knows, with a chilling certainty, that if you fully comprehend and truly step into the magnitude of what you have spiritually become, you won't just experience a personal breakthrough. You will, in fact, become a living, breathing breakthrough for countless others, a catalyst for their own liberation, a conduit for divine power and transformation in their lives. You are now a carrier of keys for more than just your own prison doors. And just when you think you've grasped the full scope of this revelation, there's one more profound layer to uncover, a deeper truth that will undoubtedly transform your perspective. Coming up next, I'm going to share the insight that changes everything about how you perceive your purpose, your calling, and your place in the grand tapestry of God's divine plan. Do not leave now. This next piece is the linchpin. The truth is, most people spend the entirety of their lives in a state of passive waiting, patiently expecting God to promote them, to elevate them to a higher position of influence or responsibility. What they often fail to grasp is the profound spiritual principle that true promotion comes not through grand gestures or overt acts of heroism, but through unwavering obedience to small, seemingly insignificant instructions that appear inconsequential at the time. You likely thought that choosing silence over the need to defend yourself, to justify your actions, or to lash out in return was simply an admirable display of good character. But heaven, in its infinite wisdom, recorded it as intensive leadership training, a crucible in which a leader's true mettle is forged. You may have believed that forgiving someone who had deeply wronged you, when you had every conceivable right to hold on to a festering grudge, was merely an act of basic, commendable Christianity. Yet in the celestial archives, that act of profound grace was meticulously recorded as essential preparation for the immense authority you are now poised to walk in, an authority that demands boundless compassion and spiritual resilience. But wait, before you rush forward, propelled by this new understanding, you absolutely need to see this, to grasp a truth that lies beneath even that profound revelation. There's a deeper reason, a more intricate design, behind why your seemingly simple act of obedience 3 weeks ago triggered such massive, seismic spiritual shifts in your life and in the unseen realms. It is because God, the master weaver of destinies, has been meticulously preparing you, not just generally but specifically, for an assignment so significant, so impactful, that it precisely requires the exact character qualities, the very spiritual fortitude, and the refined discernment that you so powerfully demonstrated in that pivotal moment. Your restraint, that powerful act of holding back, was not a random, isolated incident. It was divine preparation, a crucial tempering of your spirit. Your purity, your unwavering commitment to integrity in the face of immense pressure, was not an accidental byproduct. It was your undeniable qualification, a testament to your readiness for the sacred task ahead. And here, in this moment of profound insight, is where the real, transformative journey truly begins. You are not just walking into a season of personal breakthrough, where your individual challenges are overcome and your desires are met. No, something far grander is unfolding. You are walking into positional breakthrough. This is not merely about a shift in your circumstances. It's about a fundamental divine change in your assignment. God isn't just rearranging the furniture in your life. He is changing the very house you inhabit, moving you into a new spiritual residence. The powerful authority you accidentally, yet divinely activated, is intrinsically connected to a purpose so vast, so profound, and so eternally significant that you haven't even begun to fully perceive its magnificent scope yet. This is an invitation to step into a destiny far beyond your wildest dreams. But let me challenge you with something that is going to directly confront and shatter every single assumption you have ever made about your life, your past, and your future. That pervasive sense you've been carrying, that nagging feeling that you fundamentally disrupted something sacred or caused a grave imbalance 3 weeks ago. You are absolutely right. You did disrupt something. But what you disrupted was not God's perfect peace, His divine order, or His sovereign plan. What you, with your radical obedience, so powerfully and irrevocably disrupted, were hell's meticulously crafted plans for your life, your family, and your destiny. Your obedience, far from breaking divine order, actually established it, aligning your life with heaven's intended design and dismantling the enemy's strongholds with a single courageous act of faith. You didn't cause chaos in heaven, you brought order to your earthly realm, and what's coming next will likely surprise you because it always does. The thing that's been subtly, yet powerfully blocking your full breakthrough, hindering your complete manifestation, isn't your past mistakes, no matter how regrettable they may seem. It's not your current circumstances, regardless of how challenging or overwhelming they appear. It's not even the people who have hurt you, or the precious opportunities you believe you may have irrevocably missed. The true, fundamental blockage is your current inability, or perhaps your deep-seated resistance, to see yourself, truly see yourself, the way heaven sees you right now, as qualified, as worthy, as elevated, and as empowered. It is the disconnect between your self-perception and your divine identity. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next is the part that profoundly breaks the cycle for good, permanently severing the ties to self-doubt and ushering in an era of undeniable spiritual clarity. For these past 3 long weeks, you have been inadvertently carrying a heavy burden of guilt, a quiet remorse about what was, in fact, a divine promotion. You've been offering apologies to the divine for an elevation that was meticulously planned and sovereignly bestowed upon you. You've been asking God to forgive you for stepping boldly and obediently into exactly what He called you to step into, for embracing the very mantle He prepared for your shoulders. And here's the insidious truth. Every single time you apologize for your act of obedience, every time you diminish the significance of that powerful choice, you inadvertently delay the full, radiant manifestation of what that very obedience so profoundly activated in the spiritual realms. It's like turning down the volume on a symphony that was meant to be played at full power. But here's the part you probably didn't anticipate, the subtle yet powerful adversary within. The thing that has been truly blocking your full access to this breakthrough isn't a doubt about whether God is capable or powerful enough to promote you. That's rarely the core issue. The deeper, more insidious blockage is a profound, often unconscious doubt about whether you truly deserve to be promoted, whether you are truly worthy of this elevation. It's not a fear that God won't come through on His promises for your life. It's a much more personal, deeply rooted fear that you, in your humanness and imperfection, are not actually ready, not adequately prepared, not sufficiently capable for the magnificent, expansive thing He is bringing you into, for the weighty assignment He is placing in your hands. And until that deeply ingrained perception profoundly shifts within the core of your being, nothing else will fully manifest. Because you simply cannot confidently walk in an authority, a spiritual power, that you do not genuinely believe you qualify for. You cannot fully operate in the glorious breakthrough that God has unleashed if, deep down, you do not feel you deserve it. The very humility, that beautiful, virtuous trait that so powerfully qualified you for this divine promotion in the first place, can subtly, ironically, become the very thing that unconsciously keeps you from fully stepping into and embracing the elevated position and purpose that awaits you. It's time to shed the cloak of unworthiness and put on the robes of righteous confidence. Tonight, before you surrender to the peace of sleep, take a sacred moment. Speak these powerful truths over yourself. Place your hand gently upon your heart, connecting with the core of your being, and declare this transformative affirmation with me, letting each word resonate with conviction. I release all guilt for walking in obedience. I release all fear about the authority God has given me. I release every lie that says I'm not ready for what heaven has prepared. I step into my divine assignment, knowing that my qualification came through my character, not my perfection. I trust that what shifted 3 weeks ago was not disruption, but divine alignment. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, carrying exactly the authority I'm meant to carry. The spiritual turbulence was not punishment, but promotion. And I walk forward knowing that my breakthrough is not coming because it's already here. If this message found you at the exact moment you needed to hear it, that's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Leave a comment below and simply write, "I'm ready," so I know this reached the person it was meant to reach. And if you know someone else who's been walking through unexplained spiritual turbulence lately, share this with them. Heaven orchestrated this message for such a time as this.